our regular board meeting. So this bid opening is to the town of Preble regarding a two-wheeler truck from Burr Truck Investor. The price on this truck is, the bid is $171,544.00. Next item is a cold storage building. And this is from Morton Building. And the price on this cold storage building is $136,386.00. That's Morton Building. The next bidder is Complete Construction Concepts in Homer. They really seal these bids up pretty tight. And the bid on this cold storage building from Complete Construction Concepts is $82,500.
$50,000 cheaper.
And that completes the bids for those two projects. At this time, we will start our public hearing. I'll read the public hearing notice. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held in the town of Preble Town Board on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Preble Town Hall, Preble Road, Preble, New York, to consider enactment of local law number 2 of 2024 regarding extending the moratorium to temporarily suspend the use of dwellings as transient or short-term rentals. Any resident of the town of Preble is entitled to be heard upon said local law at such public hearing. Copies of said proposed local law are available for review at the town clerk's office. dated August 28th, 2024. So this public hearing is strictly about extending the moratorium another 90 days. Does anybody have a comment or question about this? Until what date, Don?
It'll be 90 days from the day it's filed with the Secretary of State.
So they'll go to January.
We won't be able to enact it tonight because we need to hear from county planning. So if it's adopted, it would be adopted at the October board meeting. And so it would be filed thereafter. So it would be 90 days from the date of that filing.
And when does the moratorium finish? Was that already?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We already had a moratorium, right? And when did that end?
It hasn't.
The last date on that was October 29th.
I was going to say the 28th. It's
28th?
28th or 29th.
Mhm.
But if we're going to do this, we're going to get this filed before that date.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no
Lapse.
break.
Right, and that'll be extended another 90 days. So that just gives the town board more time to continue working on this local law regarding short-term rentals. Yes, Pete?
Pete Farm. This does not change any language whatsoever in the current moratorium, correct?
Correct. It's just an extension.
Okay.
Yep, extension of time. That's all it is. Anybody else? Anything? Okay. Yes?
Have you been able to research how other towns have handled this?
Well, through the planning board and the town board and our attorney and our additional attorney that we hired, we have a lot of research behind us on this. And there are different towns that have handled it in different ways. So it's not a cookie cutter approach. Every town is different. Every town handles it a little bit differently. But for what we want to do, we have researched it, I think, thoroughly enough. But we do need a little bit more time to complete this.
What was your name, sir?
William Lucci.
Thank you.
Yes?
I have a question about why this is for just the residents only, because according to what I read, hearings are supposed to be for the general public, and you can't limit it to just residents, at least according to New York State public meeting law.
You're talking about comments at this public hearing?
I'm talking about when I read on the New York State laws for public meetings, that hearings, which this is, can't be limited.
No
And I
one,
checked it with the legislature, the county legislature today to make sure I was right, and they said that was exactly correct, that
No one's-
anyone can speak.
no, anyone can speak. No one's
Okay.
checking residency.
Mhm.
Okay.
But it's just speaking on this one topic of extension of the moratorium.
I am curious as to find out, I only found out about the moratorium after it was in effect.
Mhm.
And I'm not exactly sure what that entails, because I'm not very good with the internet, so when I go on, I never seem to be able to find out the time.
Well, it's a moratorium on short-term rental operations. So when we filed our initial moratorium, that put a stop to anybody opening up a new short-term rental operation from
But
that
it
point
doesn't
on.
affect current ones?
Correct.
So that the people who already have them, they continue to exercise those?
Yes.
So with the moratorium, what is the goal of the board? When they're looking at revamping the law, what is the goal?
Well,
Because I've heard various things from various people, I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
mhm. We're going to get into that a little bit more during our town board meeting. Right now, we're just talking about extending the time that we're working on this. So we will be talking about short-term rentals a little bit later. And we can answer that question later in the meeting.
Okay, so then how do I find out what that is? Because I
Just-
haven't been able to find it.
If you just hang around to the end, you'll have that question answered.
Okay,
Okay?
so why the moratorium? I don't even understand why. we're-
The moratorium gives us more time because we have, we've had public hearings like this. We sent out a mailer
I
getting,
got mine the day after you asked. it.
getting responses
Return.
from the public. And so we have been tabulating all those responses. We've been reading them. We've been listening to people that are coming in and speaking. And so our focus, our strategy has shifted a little bit. And so we're going to talk about that later.
Okay,
So the intent of a moratorium is to keep the status quo, to prevent any more new short-term rentals from coming in the meantime. That's has been the intent of this moratorium. And notwithstanding the diligent efforts of members of the planning board and the town board, we don't think that we're ready to enact or potentially not be ready to enact by October 28th. So this matter, this public hearing is simply with respect to a new local law that would extend the time period of the moratorium for another 90 days in hopes that we can get a law passed before that time is up.
what is the aim of the law?
That's not a matter of this public hearing. And as Jim has indicated, it is on the agenda and will be discussed later tonight.
At the town board, but
Mhm.
the question is then when does the public get to speak on the law before it's enacted?
Well, we had a lot of speaking at the last public hearing, the last board meeting. We had a public hearing at that time on proposed local law 2 for 2024. The enactment process includes, if there's another version, there'll be another public hearing.
And we have questions and answers tonight too. So after our regular board meeting, well, at the end of our regular board meeting, we'll be opening up to questions, answers, and comments. So we'll have another opportunity to speak. Right now is simply extension of the moratorium. That's all we're talking about. Okay. Anybody else? Michelle, did you have anything?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Because I was just gonna say, I was just wondering if, I guess I will.
Okay.
Um, This is about the extension of the moratorium,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she asked a question, what was the goal of the moratorium?
Mm-hmm.
That can't be answered, I mean, 270 days ago, we enacted the moratorium.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what the town's goal was?
Well, it wasn't
with that
exactly
moratorium?
270 days ago.
Well, it
It was,
expired in 270 days, and that's
Mhm.
October 29th.
right.
So I just was wondering if you could, has the goal changed? Why can't you speak to the goal of that moratorium?
Well, like putting together any kind of legislation, it has twists and turns on the journey. And so the board realized that we needed a little bit more time to go through these twists and turns and develop something that was accurate to the way the board is thinking. And we'll be discussing that more tonight. Anybody else? Joe?
I'm going to speak in favor of the moratorium and the extension. Favored it to begin with, at least stabilize things while we study it. I think we've all seen over the last few months, this is complex. 90 more days is a very good idea. I support it.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else? Okay. Don, we need a motion to adjourn,
Close the public hearing.
adjourn from the public hearing? Okay. So we need a motion to adjourn from the public hearing tonight?
So moved.
The terminology would be to close the public hearing.
To close the public hearing, okay.
Make a motion, to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes additions or deletions to the minutes of August?
I
The
make a
August
motion,
board meeting.
I make a motion to accept the August meeting. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Karen? Jen?
Dog control, no report received. Justice report, fines collected in August were $6,407.
Thanks, Jen. Jeff, highway report?
I've got a copy of the report. Good, Jim. I didn't quite hear you out there. We had the bid opening, Don, what an appropriate time be to do a special meeting for award of those? As far as how far out?
Well, typically it'd be a couple weeks, allows to publish legal notice. It takes a little longer now because of the method that they now have. So I would say no sooner than 2 weeks, Jeff.
I'd ask that the board pass a resolution to have a special short meeting and just to approve or deny. I just gotta go through them and make sure they're up to spec.
Mhm.
And that'd be plenty of time, so I'll leave that up to the board's thoughts on that. Also, the Tully Fuel Island repair is now likely, last I heard, gonna go into mid-October. Getting some snafus there. I will be out of town the week of the 23rd for the highway conference. And the other big thing going on is the FEMA project up on East Hill. We've got 226 pages with 17 pages of cover sheets that are just doing final reading that over, and that'll be ready to go out to bid. Anticipate, the only other question I had for you, Don, was the verbiage of the land access that I sent to you a week or 10 days ago. Is that something that you're okay with? Or?
I haven't had a chance to look at it, to be honest with you, Jeff. I've been gone the last 10 days.
Okay. So if we can firm that up, make sure that's okay, that'll get all the land access easements, and then once that's tidied up, we can go out to bid. And if there happens to be a company that wants to get that in by, if we get a good open fall, it's something we could potentially get done this fall. If not, of course, it'd be in the spring, weather depending. So, just some other quick information. There's a fall festival over here, the 14th at the Baptist Church. The fire department will be doing the food and cooking chicken, if anybody's interested. Drug take back is September 28th at the Cortonville Fire Station. And there's a couple of rabies clinics coming up. First is September 11th at the county office building. Anybody have any questions for me? Take care. Have a good evening.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Are we gonna do a special meeting in 2 weeks for Jeff for those things?
We can. We can. What date? Monday would be, 2 weeks from tonight would be
23rd
fine.
is 2 weeks.
That's the week he's going to be gone.
Oh, we can't do it then. We can do it
The 30th.
in 3 weeks, on the 30th. September 30th, Monday.
Does someone wanna do the resolution to have a special meeting on September 30th, please?
I'll make a motion to have a special meeting on September 30th to
7,
award bids,
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Carried? Okay. And Don, you would publish that?
Yep.
In the Portland Standard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next I'm gonna ask town historian Jay Curry to step forward. Jay?
Thank you.
Been a pretty busy year so far. We added 100, I think you all got one of these reports over there. We added 182 new friends to our Facebook account, which brings us up over 2,500. I've done 4 presentations. My last one will be at the church over here this weekend. So far, we've added over 700 files to the computer for the year. That puts us over 11,000 in the last 5 years. Okay. In the last 5 years, I've gone from let's see, 7 filing cabinet draws to 20. And I've gone from 3 lineal feet of shelf space to 36. And the Croydon County Historical Society has graciously donated 30 file boxes that we keep our photos in, so, which is helps out a lot rather than having stuff everything in folders and filing cabinets. That's it in a nutshell. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Now, this additional storage space that you're filling up, what is this comprised of? Are these photos of the past or newspaper articles? Of the
It's
past?
everything. It's newspaper articles, it's photos, research that I've done. I've printed off the computer or whatever. The shelving units I've put in are basically on top of my desk. Back there. I've been back there in a while. And then wherever I can squeeze out space, I'm working on it. So, and even encroaching a little bit on the justice's shelf space a little bit. So.
And you have a line item here that says that you do genealogy reports for people.
Yeah. Sometimes people call and want to know, do you have any information on my great grandfather? I don't go out and do the research itself. I'll just look and see what we got here on file. So I do have probably 30 different genealogy files for different families.
So if anybody in this room is interested in sitting down with Jay, you can contact him after the meeting.
And no, it's not open. Okay. I did do that. So. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Okay, next on the agenda, we have recreation. Anybody here from recreation? Okay. We'll move on to county legislature. Kevin?
Let me set the stage for, is Melanie up there? Where did she leave? Okay, I gotta set it.
Here you go.
Melanie,
Sorry.
have a seat right there for me. Thank God. So I'm your county legislator, Kevin. Also chairman of the legislature. Melanie here is our deputy county administrator, which I didn't ask to come here, but she might be on the hot seat for this one.
What do we need? I missed the question.
You missed the question. So we're gonna talk a little bit about sales tax. So is anyone familiar with, the sales tax that we get, 4% on top of what the state, so we got 8%. So that everyone understands a little bit about it, is where does that sales tax revenue go? State takes their 4%, and then the county, we get our 4%. We're just over right now 39 million. So what happened in the past years, before we were a legislature, we were a board of supervisors. So every board, town supervisor created the board of supervisors that ran the county. This excluded the villages and the city. So I can't remember, I think it's in the 70s, maybe early 70s, the state of New York decided that you're better run if you have a legislature. One of the reasons why was because of conflict, right? Conflict of interest.
you ended up having town supervisors making up the decisions of how the county is operated. Now, they still do this, but Cortland County, for some reason, I was little, was mandated to do it, so they ended up doing it. There are still some counties that do have board of supervisors. So when they were board of supervisors here in Portland County, they all were trying to figure out what to do with the sales tax. And in a nutshell, sales tax is distributed throughout the county to every municipality, including the city and the villages that we have. It was good at the time, but one of the things, and I don't want to get hit over the head from villages or towns, we at Cortland County are now starting to see an issue. And one of the issues that we have is that Cortland County is mandated. We have mandates from the state of New York that municipalities don't have. And now what we're starting to see with the state's trickle-down effect is we are starting to see that these mandates are really hitting the counties very hard. And that's 57 counties throughout are seeing the same thing, the exact same thing. But counties, there are some counties that take it all and say, nope, we're not going to do that. There are some that distribute through the other municipalities, but there is a big, vast fluctuation that we see between this. One of the problems that Cortland County is seeing, or sees every year, is for some reason, New York State is in a fiscal year. So they're from April until March. Cortland County and all the other municipalities here, we're on a calendar year. So we are now, April comes, we're already into our 4 months of our calendar, of our budget, along with every municipality. So we don't even know what's happening at the state level until it gets passed, could be April, could be May, on what the effects of the county are seeing. So this is where we're starting to see some. And what we need to know is, what do we do about it? The agreement that we have is really, there's an agreement between the city of Cortland and Cortland County. One reason being is because of their charter that they have, they can actually preempt and say, any sales tax that is created within the city limits of Cortland is ours. So that's kind of like, it's hard to figure that, but it is. It's something that happens. So what happened is we had a 10-year agreement with the city. It's 5 years in. Part of the agreement with the city of this contract, per se, is that any of the two parties can say, nope, we want to renegotiate. The city did that. And this is where we are today. We're at this renegotiation level for us. Off the top, without looking at a lot of budgets, so the county right now, we're going through every department because we're starting our budget process along with all the other municipalities. And what we're seeing offhand is about $8 million over what we were last year. 6 million of that is mandates, things that we have no control whatsoever on it. And along with those mandates, there are some that they call unfunded mandates, which means you have to have it, but the state of New York is not paying. One of the problems that we have when we're going through a fiscal year versus a calendar year is, say, for instance, Medicaid. Medicaid, what we call FMAP, we just received a bill of 1.3 million. And some of that was because their reimbursement to us during that fiscal year, right? They changed it. So I can't remember. I think it was like last year was maybe in the 30s or 40s of reimbursement. Now we're at 29. So right off the bat, unless you got that crystal ball and that you can try to forecast what the state of New York is doing, you're already in the hole when you're looking at this. So like I said, this is something that we're starting to feel. So now what we're doing is we're doing the negotiations. So Jim was at the I don't know, being nice about it. We kind of had like an agreement with the city. We notified and had a what I called a chairman's roundtable meeting, which probably could be changed to a different wording from it. But I got hammered. We got hammered by the municipalities on, you know, we're taking money away from them and all that. So we did hear, we did listen. We know that this is budget season right now. So we're back to the drawing board. So far, we've been through, I think, 4 or 5 revisions of this. And now we know it's crunch time. So I just wanted to tell the board is that we are keeping status quo until 2026. So what you're budgeting now will be okay. We're good there. So it's something that no one wants to do. We never want to do this, but it's something that we're really trying to lessen the impact. So here's a for instance. Cortlandville has a $10 million budget. 3 million of that 10 is sales tax revenue that comes from the county that we put out there. The way it was calculated at the time was by property value. And going back, this is why I gave you guys some of the stuff on your property values that you have here. So it's based on property value, or town assessed value is what it is. So if you really take a look at the sheets that you have there, that is one of the big impacts that you see here. So right now, the taxable plus the partial that you have here is what the calculation is on sales tax revenue. And what this is this is the values subtracting out the exemptions that we see, that we get, you know, for those. But it also reflects that equalization rate. So Preble's equalization rate is 61%. So with the taxable and the partial, with the exemptions, the Preble's value is $109 million. So that's what the calculation is based on. In reality, if it went to full value, it's 180 million that you get. If every municipality, because everyone's like, well, county taxes are really high, right? They're high. And then if you take a look at this one here, when you look at the county tax rate, and the county tax rate fluctuates from $14 per thousand, $11 per thousand, $19 per thousand. That is because of the municipalities' differences in their equalization rates. So if every municipality was at 100% of their equalization rate, the county's rate would be $10 per thousand, is what you would be seeing for that. So that's why it's really important that we really try to maintain our equalization rates that we have here. So
You said the taxable That's the taxable value is what the sales tax refund is based on,
Currently,
right? So if we're at full assessment, we'd be eligible for more money there, right?
yeah. So sales tax revenue in 2021, we saw a big spike. And the big spike in that was the state of New York enacted a law that all sales on internet, so all internet sales now gets state and county sales tax. So we did see a big spike on that. And that was in 2021. But now we're starting to see things taper. Cortland County saw a 2% this last quarter increase, while the state of New York did maybe a 0.25%, but it is still on the rise. So currently, and this is what I wanted to bring up quickly, is we're full property value. And this next one is that we're proposing includes property value plus population. And the reason why we went with that was to give an even average through. Once we started doing the numbers, what we were finding is that 11 municipalities out of the 16 were low compared to others. But once we did both value and population, which we took from the census, it put everybody at the same level in there. That's our proposal this time, is to do both for it. I mean, that was the paper throwing. What's the census got to do with this? And that is it. So what did we do? So we went to the 2020 census, took that from everyone. We went through and we have every municipality's budget that we went and looked at revenue to see what the municipalities were putting in their budgets as a revenue stream for sales tax. We took and got the real property data, and then we looked at past or current and past sales tax apportionments that we went through. One thing that the county does currently is we remove 1.5 million from the top before we start doing the apportionment. The one reason why is because we needed the money as well. 1 million of it was to put into jail reserve. 300,000 of that was to put in paying down debt, and the other one was to do building improvements, infrastructure improvements. What we're proposing this time is we're taking that money and we're putting it right back with every municipality. So we're putting the 1.5 million back and everyone's sharing it. So we ended up looking at a 5-year budget. I am only telling you this solely because you guys are here. So Preble in 2023 received $590,500 in sales tax revenue. They budgeted $400,000, which I remember when I was town supervisor, my bookkeeper said, Kevin, don't rely on sales tax because you never know when it's going to go down, and you don't want to mess with your budget. And being with the negotiations, you never know. But what we're proposing at this one point was in by 2029 of going down for municipalities to 11%. That was the one. That was the part that was really hard to chew. This next proposal right now we're looking at is capping at 18%. Now you're capping at 18%. The sales tax generation is going up. So you would see an increase even though it was at 18%. So all I'm saying here is that there is more work to be done. Every legislator does not want to have to deal with this. And I'll be frank, very frank with everybody. Don't you think a legislator is worried about their reelection? So they don't want to go and tick off a municipality that's supporting them and voting for them because you're taking away revenue. So that is why we have to make sure is that we are thinking of each municipality when we make these decisions. But everybody does need to know is when there is a tax or an increase of taxes on property, City of Cortland, 30% of the City of Cortland's property is non-taxable. Non-taxable. The city's got their buildings. The county, we're required by law to be in the city. That's our buildings, our jails, churches. I mean, nonprofits, 30%, you think about that, 30%, they have to get it somehow. That's why there's this, the sales tax agreement that we have with them. So does anybody have any questions on this?
Well, Kevin, I've got a
Yeah.
question,
Mhm.
getting back to equalization rates. It says that our equalization rate is, well, 18.11
Yeah, that's dollars per thousand.
dollars per, okay, that's our rate, our tax rate per thousand.
Yeah.
So if we,
61.
61%, right, is our equalization rate.
Yeah.
So if we went to 100%, you're saying that 18 would go down to 10, with like, if everybody went to.
If
100.
everyone in the county was 100%. Yeah.
So, but by having 100% equalization rates, it should not change our the total taxes that we pay, because we'll be paying more town but less county, right?
Well, so I go back when I was supervisor. So in the town of Scott, we know that we have to levy $200,000 for our budget. So that's what we have to get from taxes. That's a number that is set in stone. Boom, that's what you need. But if your neighbor is not getting assessed the exact same way that you are, then you're paying more on that. If your values all were the same and evenly distributed, it's more, there's more pieces right there being cut for that pie for 200,000. So no, so town tax could go down. Some people, it might go up because they've been assessed for so long, so low. I mean, when was the last assessment that we had here?
A long time ago.
I mean, it was a long time ago. And the only thing that they're looking at now, if you look at the tax bill, is they're estimating. They're throwing it up there and saying, well, it's going to go up this much. It's going to go up $4,000 or whatever. It's not an even stream.
I talked to our assessor, and our assessor said he does not want to do a reval this year. He did want to do it this year because he feels, along with a lot of his other colleagues too, that we're in a housing and real estate bubble.
Mhm.
And at some point, this bubble is going to burst and calm down, and property values will probably drop. That was his opinion, along with other people like him. And so he didn't want to revalue us at a high level.
Mhm.
He wanted to wait a few years until things calmed down in the real estate market. And that was his opinion.
Right, and that's not what we were seeing in NISAC, in our New York State Association of Counties conference. They're saying holding off is just hurting the homeowner because it's not a really, you don't have a baseline. There's no baseline for you to think this is, this was a real town valuation. And by not having it for 20 years, I mean, there's some people that, have it where it's going up. But when they build a home, you build that home, it's gonna get that real value. And then that's where you start skewing a lot, because this person's paying a lot while this person, the value's not there, so they're not really paying their, be frank again, fair share to where they need to get to that same level so that everybody is paying, but in a sense could end up actually paying less even though that their value is higher. That's the catchy part, you know, for that. So, you know, that's where, you know, the county is on there. Melanie, I don't know if you have any more input on that.
I think it should be noted that 62 counties, 60 some, I think 62 counties in New York State, 38 counties do not share at all with municipalities. So that kind of shows you Cortland is pretty generous in their sharing. And it still goes back to these unfunded mandates. When you look at the rise in the Department of Social Service costs, foster care, 730 evaluations for mental evaluations when somebody's convicted of a crime, if they can stand trial or not, those are going up. Our jail, which we are putting $1 million in a reserve every year or have for a while, but that's still a concern with the liability out there, the amount of people that are in jail. The jail was built in early 90s, the classification, it was built for 6 females. We now have 12. We have to house them out. We have to take them to other counties, save transportation costs. So there's a lot of Office of the Aging, transportation, there's a lot of costs that the county incurs that spread over the towns and villages that the county has to continue to try to pay for, so.
So I don't want to paint a grim story on this. It's just that what we have to do is we have to prepare. I mean, when we're starting to see social services, you know, putting their budgets of getting, you know, 3 million because of the mandates, you know, when we start seeing that and the payback that we're receiving, I mean, we're already owed like 2.3 million or something like that by the state of New York. That was 2 years ago, and they don't pay their bills. And that is what we are directly owed, you know, back then. Public defender, as Melanie was talking about. So public defender's office. Our DA, district attorney. Do we give them a raise? The county? Does anyone know? Nope, we don't. State of New York says you are now going to pay your district attorney this amount of money, and we're required to by law. Crazy. Now, public defenders that we have, they are, I think we were what, $60, $70 an hour?
75,
75.
gone to 158.
Yep. Now the state of New York says you're now going to pay them $158 an hour. Mandate. This is what's bad about mandates, is that we have no anything. Municipal town supervisors that were there says, well, what can you cut? That was right off the bat. County apparently is doing it wrong. What can you cut? Just like that. Sheriff's Department? Yeah, we could do road patrol. We could cut that. What else could we cut? Area of the aging?
Foster care, oh, yep, area of the aging,
Yep, we can cut it. Bam. But when people are looking at you know, life safety, and we're looking at our elderly and all that, we went through that once years ago when I was supervisor, where they were threatening to get rid of the senior centers. And we will never do that again. You know, we'll take the beating, but that will never happen. That's why we started doing these grants for them, so that they can be sustainable and sustain themselves for that. So, Joe, don't want to take up too much.
Yeah,
But
I've got one more question,
Yeah.
Kevin. I read articles stating that Cortland County per capita is one of the highest tax counties in the state and in the country too. If you
number 9.
number 9 in the state.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's other states, apparently, other counties that are doing things better than we are, or their circumstances are different. So can you talk to us a little bit about why we are number 9 as far as the highest tax county in the state? And what are the other counties doing differently than us?
One, poverty rate. We're one of the highest poverty rates in the state. I think Tioga is up there as well. That's one of them.
I would also challenge to say, when you look at those numbers, Cortland County is the highest rate because the other counties, 38 counties in the state, more than half are taking that sales tax and keeping it to themselves. That rate would drop significantly if they would, Onondaga County does not give any towns or villages any of the money. So if you take our tax costs, our expenses, and minus it by that huge chunk of sales tax, we would probably be one of the lowest.
Yep.
But because that divvy it out, I think the other thing that needs to be looked at is what can you cut in expenses? But you should also be focusing on how you can grow that revenue. How can you grow that sales tax revenue? How can you encourage people to spend their money in Cortland County versus going across the border to Sweet Basil and coming to Bob's Barbecue or Anderson's Farm Market or any of that? So how can you grow that sales revenue?
And like people look like at Tompkins County, right? Everyone's, oh, Tompkins County is great. I work there. But the problem that you have is their home values. I mean, they're in the 400,000 range. You know, so they do have a lot there. So if you're going to be comparing that way, equalization rates are another one. I mean, where would we be, as I said, where would we be on that list at $10 per thousand? Would we be there? I don't know.
And you still have to question, as a board, if you're budgeting 400,000 and you're getting 580, you're budgeting 66%. So where does that extra, I assume you're putting in a reserve, or where does that 180 go every year? It's going against the general fund. It's going, I mean, those are questions too to ask. But I think when you were on that meeting, one of the towns said they put $2 million a year in reserves. In the county, the whole county is putting $1.5 million, and one town is putting $2 million. So there's a lot of, I mean, it's like Kevin said, it's not an easy discussion. It's not going to be a happy ending. It's just the reality of life. But I think equally important is to look is how we can increase sales taxes in this county and get more people to come. And when the SUNY Cortland student parents come for Parents Weekend, grab every penny, get them to every restaurant, and stay here.
Some
Well-
business in the county.
Sorry?
It's some business in
Oh,
Portland
yeah,
County
yeah,
that's
yeah,
worth going. You don't have
One of the biggest businesses in the city of Portland, because everyone hollers, you don't have housing. There's no housing. Housing market is bad. No, it's not. It's not bad. What it is it's being taken up by student housing. That's what's killing it. I mean, they're just buying them up, and then they're just throwing in 20 kids there at $1,200 a month. I mean, that's it. That's true. So it does get hard when you're looking at that.
Well, you can't tax that. You're putting out there, they want the business, but not in their back.
It is. Yep.
Yeah, try to get a store, no store.
Yeah.
There's
Town of
no
Scott, we
business here.
lost ours too.
What was that?
Yeah. We lost our store in the town of Scott.
Oh, yeah. And in Little York, somebody bought the gas station to keep the competition down in Homer and closed it down, and now it just killed the town.
Yep. Awesome business, isn't it?
Yeah, great. Should be illegal.
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions or anything? So municipalities are gonna keep what they've got for the year. And then within this time frame, we're gonna be working with the municipalities as a group. And look, and really coming up to a good agreement for it. I just don't wanna be the one, that you look at, a 3% increase at a municipality or a 3% increase in a county's tax. I mean, there's a big difference there. And we just want to make sure that we can keep everyone's down so we don't have to deal with this. I mean, one of the things that hurt was the 2% tax cap. Because it's not always a 2%. It's 2% or the rate of inflation. So it was kind of fluctuating, but that's another state. So we are very routinely going to the state of New York, doing our complaints for it. I mean, we lost $720 million from Medicaid that the federal government is giving the state. It's supposed to be trickled down to counties, and it's not. It's being left there, and they're dealing with it. So it's a real hurt that we're seeing. My eyes, when I became legislator, I was one of them. Why? You must be doing something wrong. And then when I became a legislator and really started getting into the weeds of this, it was like eyes wide open. I can't believe food stamps, right? Food stamps, totally funded by the government, except for one thing. Administering the food stamp, that's up to the county. So we have to have, that comes out of our county coffers. So they pay for part, but not for all. And this is what we're starting to see with a lot of these mandates, unfunded mandates. 80% of our county budget is mandated funding. We have this little discretionary part that we have to deal with when we're dealing with union raises. We have 3 unions that we negotiate with, that we have to deal with. We're looking at infrastructure issues. We have to maintain our buildings just like anyone else does. And I just want to make sure that the municipalities hear us and understand that we are mandated, even if we don't want to do it, we're mandated to deal with it. It's just the way it is. Because they ask well, what if you say no, Kevin? What if you say no? There is parts that we get grant funding. A lot of grant funding pays for some of our programs. And if we ever tell them, say no, they're going to hold that grant funding, and then we're just worse off. So that's where the county is at this point. We are looking at a 5-year down the road. So we are looking at 5-year plan. And to Jim's note is that we heard the municipalities. They're saying, well, why don't you compare budgets to budgets from counties? See where we're overspending or whatever. And we're going to do that. We're going to take a look at them, and we're going to do that comparison because we listen to them. Yeah.
Is the county looking at new tax revenue streams in terms of raising taxes?
Not anticipating. I mean,
Well, if there is one that's available, but is being considered,
a tax revenue stream that we're anticipating is the marijuana shops. I mean, we had 2 of them. I think 2 of them got approved. They were supposed to generate sales tax for us, but no, wrong. They're not. New York State's taking 14% of that sales, and then what they're given back is minuscule amounts to the county. I think we're looking at maybe 110,000, but then the host community, the ones that opted in or didn't opt out, the host community is then going to get 1%, 1 or 2% of the sales tax on there. So yeah, and that was the most mismanaged program of New York State, that they're actually being sued from the people that got the licenses for it, and they're still paying $250 million a year for advertisements to don't smoke it and don't go high. Don't drive high. I love that one. So it's another story. Another story. Sorry, Jim.
No, it's okay. Kevin, I just have one more comment. It sounds like to me that we're gonna be looking at a county tax increase in the next fiscal year, right? 2025.
Mhm.
You know, because you're putting together your budget now.
Yeah.
On that. You know, and 80% of that is being mandated by the state, saying that we have to do certain things. There is a limit to what the homeowner can pay.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not you know, unlimited deep pockets that property owners have. And I don't think New York State understands that most of the time.
No, and the one good thing that I can say is the Association of Towns are counties, and I think your Association of Towns, I mean, they're one of the lobbying groups that we have. And they have helped us out as counties, you know, for it. But we harp all the time to our legislature. If you ever meet the legislature, harp as well. It's just the way it is. And it's just really sad to see that the state of New York, and any decision that they make, it just keeps trickling down, trickling down, trickling down. And I know I have a cartoon where it's got the county, you know, it's got local municipality, county, state, federal on the backs of the property owners. And that it's a true comment where pretty soon your back is going to break. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen. And that's why we need to really take a look deeply at, you know, what we have. I mean, we have 50 employee vacancies in the county, 50 of them. That's a record low. That's a low record. We were, I think, up to 75.
In the high 70s.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why, because people say, well, you know, you gotta watch your budget. It was like, okay, this is all we can pay. That's it. We can only pay this. And what they're doing is they're going to another county that would pay more. And then
We consider tabling this and moving on. We have a long agenda.
it's fine with me. We can table all you want for it. But one of the things I have to say is that it will impact.
Mhm.
It will.
Okay.
One quick question. What's a rehab district?
That I did not know. I mean, that's a Preble rehab district. I'll look into that because I had no clue what that was. 94 cents per thousand?
Yeah.
So what if you're still attracting more business?
We are. I mean, we're trying to, our IDA, BDC, business development.
That's
New York
Lake.
New York,
Oh, that's what that is for the.
We have
That's
plenty of
totally
problems. We need to have some definite plans to attract more revenue. I didn't hear of this. Are they working on that? Are you working on that as well?
Yeah, so our industrial development agency that we have with our business development, that's their focus. So they're always at Albany trying to get that revenue and to understand. Everyone hears Micron, right? Micron. We don't have the property in Portland County because we're an agricultural community. We don't have the property to bring in the subsidiary companies that help support Micron, because they're coming. I think they said there's roughly around 200 companies that will come with Micron. But the problem that you have there is, for us, is, well, what can we do? Housing. Housing is one of the biggest things because Onondaga is very expensive to live in, and they can commute here. We're about 35, 40 minutes away for it. So that's one of the things, is being the bedroom community. And then they can stay here, you know, off times.
So the county section, the county is working on actually doing that, like getting housing, so that we can track it. So I heard the problems, we have to have solutions.
Right.
And if the solution is housing, then I think, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Cooper Tool, anyone know Cooper?
We gotta keep moving on here. We're done at 8:30.
All right. Gotcha.
Thanks, Kevin.
I think so. I think so.
Okay, Jen?
Zoning and code enforcement August report. 3 building permits, 96 miles traveled, 34 building inspections,
Go ahead, Kevin.
56
Thank you.
hours worked, 2 fire inspections, 0 complaint follow-ups, 37 telephone inquiries. The next planning board meeting is September 25th at 7 p.m. The next ZBA meeting is October 3rd at 7 p.m. Town clerk fees collected in August, $1,257. Dispersed $1,245 to the town of Preble and $12 to New York State Ag and Markets.
Thank you, Jen. We don't have any new business for tonight, but we do have unfinished business, and that is short-term rentals. We spent some time in executive session last month, and we will spend time in executive session tonight also. But what the town board of Preble is now thinking about for short-term rentals, and I believe we're all in agreement with this, is to prohibit short-term rentals 30 days or less in R1L and have a phase-out period of the people who have already invested in short-term rentals can have a period of time to phase out that operation. Now, they can still rent their houses out for more than 30 days. And, but this would just be the short-term aspect of it, would be prohibited. And a prohibition of any new short-term rentals coming in. Now, the rest of the town would not have that restriction. The rest of the town could have short-term rentals. It would just be R1L. The one reason is because of the property, the density of people that live along the lakes, the properties are very narrow. And people and their neighbors affect each other in a greater way than the rest of the town. We don't have any complaints with the rest of the town. Nobody has come to us and said, my neighbor has short-term rentals, but in R1L, we do have these complaints. So I want to open up the table here for any of the board members to add to what I said or comment on what I said.
Well, that's why we sent out questionnaires.
Mhm.
And that's why we have a public hearing to get the input from the taxpayers and residents. So that's what we were, based upon what you said there, and we were all in agreement. That's the path we were going to take based upon what the people want, the taxpayers. So that's what our questionnaires and our public hearing produced.
And we had some additional counsel last month also that recommended that we could take this route, that this was a viable route to take. So that's the direction that we're looking at right now, and we need another 90 days to complete a local law that reflects these things. Now, there are things in that local law that will be revised or deleted, and that is the town cannot police the waterways. If somebody has jet skis and they're doing figure eights or whatever, don't call us. We can't do anything about it. We can't really do anything about garbage. You're going to have to take care of that on your own. So there are these types of small issues that we're going to step away from. We're going to look at just the main issue here, and that is short-term rentals, and whether they're legal in R1L or not. Then the phase-out time, we're thinking maybe 2 or 3 years phase-out period. Jim, anything? Anybody have any questions or comments on this?
And where we are going to allow the short-term rentals, they still have policies to follow, correct?
Yeah, there'll be some rules and regulations, but they're not gonna be as in-depth as the last copy of the local law.
I guess I'd lean toward a little bit longer phase out period of 3 to 5 years instead of 2 to.
Okay,
So,
well, that's all debatable. We
Right.
can
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
what we
that.
have to discuss, because a lot of the residents want to have a shorter
Mhm.
term than that, but
Mhm.
that's what we can discuss, but.
So that's our compromise as a board, is a prohibition with a phase-out period. We don't feel that it was right to just have a prohibition when people have significant investments around the lake that they would like to recoup.
So it's a compromise and giving them time to get recoup their profits and so forth and plan ahead for the future. It's a compromise. But in the public hearing, when people were talking, everybody was here knows that what was said, but we put down all the concerns and wrote them out and then made a chart for, against, and people talked about regulations. So it was 3-1 against short-term rentals, and there was 6-4 and 20 against, and then there was people with regulations. Both sides don't like regulations for various reasons, and the board determined that we don't want to pay for enforcement of that in years to come and trying to regulate it. And both sides didn't want, because it'll increase taxes for the people.
and that's the reason for the phase out.
For the that's the reason for the phase out.
So it wouldn't be an ongoing cost. Yeah.
An
Yeah.
ongoing
Now,
cost.
some of the discussions that came up was if somebody's playing their music too loud, don't call the town. You know, if somebody is committing a crime, call the police. You know, if somebody's septic is overflowing or their garbage is overflowing, it's not our problem. Call the county health department and they will come immediately and deal with it. So there are things in, you know, that have to do with this topic that that is not a town responsibility. It's more county, police, health department, so on. So those are things that we can't get into these details of areas where it's, you know, it is not designated for the town to take care of these responsibilities. We need to stay close to the trunk of the tree on this topic, and that is, what are we going to do about short-term rentals? Either allow them or prohibit them. So we decided a prohibition with a phase-out period would be the best for our town. Hold off on the questions for right now. So anybody else on the board? Do we have any other comments on this? To Dave's? You're okay with it? Okay, so let's just finish up this meeting. We're going to pay the bills, and then we'll be open for public comment. Jen?
Money received, USPS $779. Northeast Transformer Services, $1,771.89. Portland County second quarter sales tax, $153,517.60.
Thanks, Jen. We need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
Make a motion to pay general fund vouchers, abstracts number 9, numbers 173 to 185, totaling $8,304.10.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Carrie, need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers, abstract numbers 99 to 107, totaling $25,599.11.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We will go to into an executive session after the public comment. So I'd like to now open up the meeting for public comment and question. Michelle?
Hi, everybody, Michelle Baker. We attended the Portland County Planning Board meeting where the local law 2 of the regulations was discussed. And we have not heard what they recommended, but I will tell you all what we heard at that meeting. That they were opposed to the law because it limited short-term rentals on the lake. And did you get that message from county planning? That they did not like that and they would like it to be open to allowing new short-term rentals on the lake? Because they said it goes against their strategic growth and tourism goals of the county. And they were very, very concerned by that. So then it comes back to this town board with that recommendation, and now we're doing a 180, and now you're prohibiting them altogether in a phase-out plan. Doesn't that go against what Portland County Planning Board
Well,
wants for
ultimately,
strategic growth and tourism?
ultimately, we have home rule, and the local municipality can decide what it wants to do. And so the county can recommend things to us, but we don't have to take all of their recommendations.
I understand that, but no one here had heard that. And I'm just curious, you said a number of 20 opposed and 6 were for it. So we're making decisions as a town based on 26 responses from people? When we had a petition that had 100 signatures that said people should be able to allow the use of their land as they wish, and then there was a petition of 60 that said, we want to ban short-term rentals. I'm just saying, you know, we heard Kevin talk about revenue. These could bring in revenue to the town. And you've done a 180 even after the planning board of Portland County saying travel and tourism is important. And you're not having any new ones, so you're not, nothing, you know, we're not growing any big. So it just doesn't make sense.
Well, okay, so I'm just looking at this myself, and I'm saying the town of Preble can look at Song Lake as a tourist destination. And we can say, open up everything to short-term rentals, and half your lake will be short-term rentals. Okay? Or just let me finish. And so we can take that route, and that will have its own ramifications of whatever it is. Or we could take another route, and we can look at quality of life for residential homeowners. And so those are the two ways we could go on this. And we decided to go for the quality of life for residential homeowners.
But you were willing to grandfather the existing ones. And then when Cortland County comes back with something completely opposite, you could have kept the grandfathering. So what drove the 180 from where you were
Okay, so
a month ago?
with grandfathering,
There's 5 of us.
okay, if we were to grandfather 5 businesses, real estate businesses
Are they
around the
real estate
lake.
businesses though?
Okay.
We do have a, you know, there is a
All
little
right.
bit of a.
So if we were to grandfather 5 properties for short-term rentals, we would be creating a monopoly. We would be creating a monopoly of those, giving a monopoly to those 5 enterprises and saying everybody else cannot compete with these people. They are getting a monopoly for the lake. And we didn't think that was right. So that's why we didn't do that. Pete?
So you're saying that people who live in the town in residence can do rentals, but R1L cannot. So they have an extra right to rent that we can't do. So that's not equitable representation. That is blatantly not fair to people who live in one specific area of the town that you apply a rule to them. And you don't apply to the other.
Kind of like favoritism.
Rules already there.
And then, so on top of that, where do you get 3 years or 2 years or 5 years? It's a randomized, arbitrary number. I mean, if you want us to amortize it and get the money back that we put into it, it doesn't. Why would I improve the property now? Why would I keep it up?
Yes? You state your name, please?
Cindy, Romanville.
Okay.
I'm dead set against the moratorium on short-term rentals. I think it's a great infringement on the rights of personal property owners. Am I on the lake? No, I'm not. Not this end. Not, well, I am, but not here. I have property in Homer on the North Lake. And it is an extreme overstep of the authority of the board and the people that I've spoken to that have no idea that you're even doing this at all. Because every time I find out about a meeting, it's too late for me to do it. And I've spoken to people in Preble today, and they're like, I didn't know they were doing that. Because it doesn't just affect Song Lake, it affects Little York Lake. Okay? And whatever happens on this end of Little York Lake is going to happen on the other end because of the Lake Association. And what you are doing, you guys here at the table, is you're playing God with other people's rights with their property. Because some people on the lake are cranky and they want what they want. They want their little piece of. Fine, I understand that. I'm old too. I like quiet. But that doesn't give me the right to tell my neighbor he can't do with his property what he pays through the nose for taxes on to do with. Now, if you set out laws for the short-term rentals, I saw some of the things you guys had in there really good, like the fire extinguishers and to make sure things are safe for the people who are renting. That's good. It's good for business. It's good for Preble. It brings in revenue. They have to pay a bed tax, is what I was hearing at the last meeting, if I have this right. If I don't, correct me.
We do.
And it goes to the county. But did the county guy tell you that you can apply for a percentage of that tax and get it back to the town? No. So why not let the short-term rentals in? These guys are going to keep the property up. I didn't even meet them till the last meeting that I didn't even get to go to because you guys were in executive session by the time I got here because I was babysitting for my grandchildren. But okay, so you don't want noise. A lake has noise. It's part of the beauty of being on the lake. You get to listen to people, enjoy it. There are people that would come from Portland and spend a week on the lake. Fine, have rules about how many people can be there if they're renting. Any place that rents for the summer does those kinds of things. But bring in the business. Don't kill the town. I mean, I look at Preble. I love Preble. I don't want it to end up dead like Little York. I mean, they killed that place. It's like, don't. Please don't. It's like, okay, so somebody's a short-term rental and they lease it out for a week. You want to make it 30 days. You're concerned about bad neighbors, a 30-day rental. Well, now you got squatters' rights and they don't have to leave. Wouldn't you rather just have a bad tenant for a week if there's one? Because 90% of them aren't bad. So you get a bad one, all right? He's gone in a week. You get a bad one for 30 days, he's there for months. Trust me, I had one in New York. Couldn't get rid of him.
All right. Try to limit your comments, please. Get to the point. Yes.
Well, I happen to live next to one. So I didn't heard anybody say about a 10-wheel dumpster coming in, dump truck. And idling at night, Sunday night, idling in the morning, and beeping out in the morning on Monday. 10-wheel dump truck. Plus, the tag-along pickup trucks, also in short-term rentals. Can you help me on this one? I mean, it's quiet, nice diesel engine, beep beep out in the morning every morning. 10-wheel dump truck? Where's this come from? Is there anything in there about that? Did anybody that has a short-term rental come to the board and ask for a zoning permit? Where they just open the shingle? So I own a property, I own a garage. What can I put in there? Anything I want to? Because I'm a nice neighbor, I'm quiet. What can I put in my garage without coming to the board for permit? And you let me go. You let all these guys go. 9 of them. They're operating out of code. And I got a dump truck with a 10-wheel dump truck next to me. Thanks. For quiet rental property.
Anybody else? Yes?
Annette Dickinson. And my understanding is zoning law, they shouldn't be there, they're a corporation. You can, like he said, you can operate a corporation on the lake, which is R1L residential. Goes back to that from the very beginning.
Yes, Maria.
28 years ago when we moved here and we looked around and we saw our neighbors, we saw a residential area. And we decided to build onto a small cottage. There's an association we joined. Every year we contribute toward fish. We stock that lake. We knew that you could not bring other people, people just can't come in and fish. People complain, why can't we go to Song Lake? There's no entrance for anyone who aren't residents. Last year, because of phosphorus and people not taking care of their sewage problems, we spent, I think it was $29,000 to make that lake clean. Now, when we moved here, it was residential. We trusted our neighbors. This is not a business place. Had we known that we would have people opening up businesses, and that's what these are. I mean, I really feel for people who have houses and have bought next door to them. I personally feel that you guys should be able to have that if you're there. But for someone outside to buy 4 or 5 houses and use this as a business, this is not why we moved here. And this is not why we put our money in. I remember we started to build, our neighbor said to me, thank you for building here and not in Skinny-Athens. Well, I said, this is much nicer than Skinny-Athens. But if you're gonna have businesses, why can't someone open up a restaurant? I mean, you open up your kitchen and just put a shingle out, say, come for breakfast. Those are businesses. This is a residential spot. The lake is clean. It's clean because we actually work and put money into it. So, I think people who have something next to them and live there and watch there, they're not gonna let people come in who are gonna dirty the lake. But for businesses, people who don't live on this lake, that isn't what we bargained for.
Thank you, Maria. Anybody else? Yes?
Jeff Barrow. Just a quick question, Jim. The last time I was at a meeting, I think you mentioned that you were getting lawsuits from 2 sides, or potential lawsuits from 2 sides, and then you had counsel here. I was wondering if, I'm sure you consulted, did either of those cases, were either of those cases stronger, one or the other, and did that have any influence on the board's decision to go down this path?
John?
There's case authority for an amortization period for a prohibition. It was upheld. It was actually by a 4th Department case. So there is authority for what the board is considering. I'll give you that much.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering if the counsel that you had at the time that was here, or any other influence, one case being stronger than the other, has influenced the board to go on that path.
We're trying to find a way that keeps us out, period.
Yeah,
Which we may not be able to achieve no matter what we do. I understand that, but ultimately, whatever is stronger, it's up to a judge. You can't. You can evaluate cases. You can evaluate language, but ultimately, a judge decides.
Certainly, if one was frivolous, it would be easier to make.
Right.
Anybody else? Yes.
I know I was the one I gave the comment about amortization period last time, so I appreciate the board taking that into consideration. And I think it is a decent compromise, obviously, to figure out what.
Speak up a little bit.
I appreciate the compromise that the board has come to, given the comments. So I just wanted to voice support that obviously have to see where the number of years and stuff shakes out, and people on all different sides of that. But I appreciate the board taking that into consideration and moving that way. I'm really supportive of shutting them down in the long term. So I appreciate it.
Anybody else? All the way in the back.
Bill Hootie. Have you considered perhaps putting this to a referendum?
You can't. These are not subject to a vote, public vote.
Why not?
It's in the law.
Is it zoning law?
State law.
So why isn't it, I don't understand why it wouldn't be up for a vote.
It's in the law.
Which law is it? No, you say it's in the law, but like, I could say it's in the law and then I wouldn't be accurate, and you are a lawyer, so that is your area. But I don't know, I mean,
think it's
what
in
is
book
exactly the
2A.
wording in the law? That, why would this not be something that you could do with the
Ma'am,
referendum?
check with your lawyer. You're gonna have to research it yourself, okay? That's what I said. You know, I just read it over the weekend because I've been living with this thing.
I imagine, it's
Okay,
been
and
a
it-
little
and
hard,
so
it
it-
looks like it's been
it's-
bugging you.
So I've given you the same answer, the same question. I'm not gonna change the answer, ma'am.
Thank you, John.
Okay, anybody else?
I do have another question.
Well, let's get to people who haven't
Okay,
spoken
all right.
first.
I'm sorry.
All right. Anybody who hasn't spoken, who wants to speak? Okay.
Thank you guys for doing this. I know it's been really difficult. I think something that Ted said earlier, if these people that opened them up would have came to you guys in the beginning, a lot of this could have been figured out and we wouldn't be where we were. It's time to do something and move forward because you got neighbor pitting against neighbor. This is not good for our community, no matter what side you're on. This has been a disaster from day one, and I applaud you guys for doing something. Thank you.
Well said.
Joe,
Well said.
in the back?
And for those of you that think that this amortization is subject to legal attack, think twice. The Grand Island case was decided 4 or 5 years ago by one of the appellate divisions. Exactly the same formula that the town has wisely come to. The town could ban these things tomorrow. They have the authority to do that, and the court would hold them up. What they're doing is giving you a grace period so that whatever investment you have, that's the way it's structured, can be recouped. This is a good plan. I support it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else who has not spoken, that wants to speak? Anybody out in the hall that wants to speak? Okay, so if you've already spoken once, you can speak one more time? Yes.
How is the amortization going to work? And what legal documents are you going to get from the property owners that you recouped your money? And who's gonna review all this?
Well, the town cannot guarantee that any real estate investor can recoup all of their money. That's not our business. But we are just giving a grace period to let the owner know that there is an end to this and it will be coming at a certain date and they can do what they wish. They can sell their property, they can rent it out 30 days plus, you know, they can do various things.
So you're gonna give, I'd say, 3 years, and that whatever you guys decide, eventually, you're gonna say a certain amount of time and then it's done.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, and thank you for all the work.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Once again, why are you rewarding bad behavior? Now, I live next to it. What happens if my property went down? How can I recoup mine? I mean, mine might be going down. I don't know. You're rewarding bad behavior, illegal bad behavior. I do appreciate what you're doing. And I would certainly support 2 years if there's no more of it. The new owner can't reply and get another one opened up. If that's the end of it, fine, but I mean, if you want to recoup money, figure it out. 4 years, they can rent every day of the year. Not too much logic there.
Well,
It's tough to rent out a place in the February.
Well, I don't know, but I know the motels rent places out there in Telly. It's for rent.
Because they walk away.
So it's for rent.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Are we gonna, is the public gonna have some input on the time durations and stuff like that?
Just
Or
come, come to every meeting, come to every planning board meeting, every town board meeting.
It'd be a public
And
hearing.
there will be input by the public.
Okay.
Just keep doing what you're doing,
Okay.
okay? Because we're taking the public input
Mhm.
in with all, everything that we think about, everything that we do. Anybody else?
Are the surveys available online? If they've been scanned, are they on your website? Where's some of the, can we get some of this information? Are they, did you, how many surveys did you
Well,
get
we
back?
have not posted, actually, they're still coming in drips and drabs. And Jen, our town clerk, has compiled them into a spreadsheet. And she has done a great job doing that. And Jim Harris has kind of taken this bull by the horn as far as analyzing a lot of this and breaking it down. And so, yeah, they have worked on this, but we have not published it, for the public. But it is available, and you can get a copy of it, of what we have.
Survey results, it's from the
Jen,
public
your
hearing.
copy is
Public
for-
hearing.
Yeah, so there's some misunderstanding in that.
Anybody else?
That's right there.
Yes.
I'm just, I guess it bothers me that, because as long as I've lived in this area, which has been almost 40 years, there's always been rentals on the lake. And it's always been there
And
for
there
a
still
week.
can be rentals on the lake.
I'm saying it's like for a week at a time. A family can come out from Cortland with their kids who can't afford to have a place on the lake, but they can rent it for a week. And that kind of thing. I just wish that there would be some kind of language that you could put into it where the rentals could continue within certain parameters so that everyone benefits. The town benefits from the tax base, the property owner benefits, and even the neighbor benefits because the property owner is doing what he needs to do to make sure that it stays nice. Just because there's somebody different there, you can get a bad neighbor that you're stuck with forever that moves in next door to you. I know, I had one. They're not fun, at least with the rentals. If you get the unlucky of having a bad neighbor, they're gone. You can call the police on them. It's fine. Don't feel bad about it at all. And Airbnbs, from what I understand, have a large amount of insurance on them to make sure that if anything is wrong, it's taken care of. Now, I haven't ever really looked into it myself, but this is from people I know who have done it. But I haven't actually seen it yet. So it just bothers me. It bothers me on a lot of levels for a lot of people. And I just wish that there was a better, more cohesive way that we could come together and work out the details and just say, no, we don't want you to do that. This has been a way of life in this area since as long as I've lived here, and you know that, Jeff. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So, to change it because there's been some bad neighbors, address that issue. Don't take it away from that either. It's like, why can't you rent your house out for a week? Why, if it's your house, why can't you?
Because the zoning laws say it's
Okay,
not.
we need to keep this directed towards the board.
Well,
here.
all right.
All right. So are you finished with your
Yeah,
comment?
yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. So I just want to make a comment about, people talk about business taxes and revenue coming into the town by renting space out. That area was zoned as residential. So it was never real, the intention was never really to rent out property, on a short-term basis, over and over and over again. When you talk about people renting on the lake, yes, ever since there was the first cottage there in Song Lake and Little York Lake, it's been rented out. It's been rented out by the weekend, the week, the month, the season. It has always been rented out. But because we have this phenomenon right now called Airbnb and some of their competitors, it has turned into a hotel business for many. And so that R1L status of houses around the lakes is being compromised. And because it's being compromised, the town board has to come up with something. Because it's creating so much division in the town that we have to come up with something. And this is the way we interpret it.
I just wish there was a way that we could do this as a town.
We've been trying
To
for a
make
year.
it so that it's beneficial for
We've been
everybody.
trying for a year to try to work something out and try to work something out where, you know,
And see, I
everybody's.
didn't know any of that
Well,
until
you know
2 weeks
something?
ago.
You live in Preble, maybe you should have been a little more,
Okay, we can't have arguments among you.
you know?
Okay, okay, all right. Anybody else want to say
Yeah.
something? Betty Ann?
What's the difference if I run it for a week or for 30 days? You still got the same people, they can raise heck, whatever. What's the difference?
Well, I mean, a landowner a homeowner can say, this is a 30-day lease and the people only stay for a weekend or 10 days. I mean, that can happen, but you can't, but you'd have to wait another 30 days before you rent it out again.
Why wait 30 days? I've run it for 30 days and he wants to run it for 30 days.
Because the definition of short-term rental is less than 30 days.
I've got that's all I'm running it for.
Mhm, mhm.
But what's the difference if I run it for 1 day or 30 days? If I'm coming up and gonna have a party, then I'm gonna have a party on every day of the week for 30 days. Or just 1 day.
Pete?
Devil's advocate, okay? Okay, 30 days. I rented out 30 days to a group of 4 people, whatever. They only come for 1 week, tell their friends to use it every other weekend, or every other day of that 30 days. I have no control over who those people are gonna say coming in. It's no different. And it's exactly what could happen. I mean, I'm saying, we have really good controls right now, who people can come in and cannot. And if we have somebody that is unsavory, who don't want there, we can get them out right away. If we do a 30-day, we have no say. They could bring 20 cars. There's nothing I could do.
Yes, there is. It's your property.
No, you really can't.
No, not
You
after
really,
30 days.
really
There's
can't.
a rental.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, let's keep this under control. Rhea?
That's because you live there, and you are a good neighbor, and you want to make sure those people, if there is someone outside who has 5 houses, they're not monitoring. But you're a good neighbor, we're talking about the bad guys.
Well,
But we're gonna be affected. I mean,
Yeah,
it's gonna
well,
change.
I'm,
a good neighbor.
I'm updating the cabinet with a new, well, right now, because it needed it. Because former owner, sorry, Skip, it was a slumlord. That house was a dump. And I came in and we gutted it and we fixed it up. I meant no offense, because you had a guy who in there who treated my wife like nobody's, I don't even want to say what he did. That's why my wife doesn't come to these meetings anymore, because she gets reminded of the long-term guy who was in there before.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to control who comes in and comes out of my property. And that's what we do. I feel like we're good neighbors. We donated money to take care of the weeds on the lake. We do things to be good neighbors and address problems. Mr. Harris can even tell you that he had a problem with the fire pit I built. So I said, okay, what do you want us to do? And he said, oh, how about putting in a propane tank one? Good to go. So I'm trying to be good neighbors.
I have to say, whatever the town board comes up with is not gonna solve everybody's problem. It's not gonna make everybody happy. It's just not gonna do that. And so, but this is the direction we're going in, and we want to wrap this up tonight. So I would advise all of you to keep coming to the planning board meetings, come to the town board meetings. There will be periods of questions and answers and comments like this that you can continue to speak, and this is a constantly evolving thing. And we have another 90 days to work on this, which will bring us into January sometime. But this is the direction we're going in, and it will evolve as we go along.
Jim, can I just say one
Yes,
one
Michelle?
last thing? That you would take into consideration, the members of the town. I think we should be included in that. And all of these houses, people have invested tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars fixing these places up that were subpar before we got them, even including the ones that people with absentee landlords. So it's hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially that's raised the property values, but that's our investment, and we'd like you to give consideration in the phase out time period, because it takes a long time to recoup that investment. There's expenses that we have every month. We're not making tons of money on this, but we need to, I would like you to think about the phase out period because there was a lot of investment in making these houses nicer and better for everyone on the lake. And we live next door and we have all the same interests as everyone else, so I'd like you to take that
Thank
into
you.
consideration.
Okay, we need to cut this off now.
You
Amy?
encourage people to come to the planning board meetings, and yes, but remind everybody it's not a public hearing unless we
Right.
have an agenda, and people get upset if we don't have comments, but
Right.
our planning board meetings are not always public hearings.
Right.
Just so.
Amy is correct, and she's on the planning and zoning board. Does a great job on it. And the thing is, at the planning board meetings, you can come and listen to
Yeah.
what is being said, and what is being considered, what's going on. You don't really have an opportunity to speak at the planning board meetings.
So does this board, one way we could go is we need a redraft, which my office could work on,
Okay,
and try and have that ready for the planning board to review, and then give input to the town board. We need to do it pretty quickly,
yeah.
but I would think that's perhaps the way to go.
That's the way we're gonna do this.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Great.
I think it should be noted that you asked about voting on a referendum, which you said is illegal, but I think everybody should understand that the town board is elected by the people of the town and the planning board is appointed. So
That's correct.
keep that in mind when you're figuring out voting.
That's correct. So we've gone through all the business that we need to go through tonight, and we will be going to an executive session tonight to discuss some things. that have to do
Well,
with,
it has to do with potential litigation, and it has to do specifically with a letter that this board received with regard to a particular board member and the issue of recusal. And there's potential litigation from that. That's the basis for going into executive session.
Thank you, Don.
Yep.
Okay, so, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about it. Yeah. But thank you for doing the job.
Not a minute, right? You good? Nice to see you too.
Thank you for being here.
She's my neighbor.
Thanks for sending me that email.
Round one, round two.
Yeah, this is gonna be a.
No, she's not.
Where do you, you're
Oh,
you've been here for a long time, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what you meant. You rented or not?